Okay, here we go, everybody at home. We're at it's Friday, so we're gonna record this for you. We're still looking at this point slope form. So this is the original form that y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. But if you want to get rid of the subscripts, you can for today's purpose. So this is what you need to know. It's y minus y and x minus x over here. We're going to try to find slope by solving for m using our 5 steps: distribute, combine like terms, get rid of the extra variable, add, subtract, multiply, divide. That's what we've been doing all week. Now I did include in today's the undefined and the zeros, which are a different slope. So first thing that you want to do is we have an x and a y point and an x and a y point. So we want to make sure that we label the second one as a y because that's the first one we're going to use. So, because it's y minus y. So it's the first y, which happens to be 2. We replace that or substitute it. Now, the second y, which is 9, do you see that negative there? That means the opposite of that y. So the opposite of 9 is negative 9 or minus 9. We use the equals. We're looking for the m. That's what we're solving for. Now we look at our x's. So cross off the 2 that we used. And now we know we need a negative 11 and 3. So since this is just regular x, we're going to use 11 because this is the x value. It's alphabetical x, y, z. So negative 11, but we use the opposite. See the negative in front? We're going to use the opposite of that 3, which is minus 3. Because it's plus 3, right? Since it's plus 3, we're going to minus 3. So we use the first one as it sits. That was 2, and we use 9, but we make it the opposite of 9. We use negative 11, but we use opposite of the second one, which is negative 3. Now we're going to use our 5 steps, and the 5 steps tell us to distribute. Since we have parentheses, we are going to distribute. That's 1m. So 1 times negative 11 is negative 11, but it has an m. And 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, but it has an m because they have an m together. Then we just bring everything else down. Our next step, combine like terms. Well, over here on this side, we can combine the 2 and the negative 9. So 2 minus 9 is negative 7. And we can combine on this side our m's because each one of these has an m. So negative 11 minus 3, negative 11 minus 3 is negative 14. And they have an m, so it has to have an m. There's no extra variable. There's no m on this side, so we skip that step. There's no plus or minus between that 14 and the m. So we can skip that step. But what we do have is negative 14 times m, because there's nothing in between it. So the opposite of times is divide. So we're going to divide by negative 14. By the way, negative 14 divided by negative 14 is 1. 1 times m is just m. Or we say they cancel off or they're gone. Now, if you enter this in your calculator, negative 7 divided by negative 14, you guys here in my room, it'll come up as 1 over 7. Everybody get that on their calculator? It'll be 1 over 7. For you at home that doesn't have a calculator that gives it to you in fraction form, a negative and a negative is a positive, so we know it's going to be a positive answer. You'll end up with 17 over 4. Well, or 17 over 14. Each of them are divisible by 7. I'm sorry, you're right, 1 over 2. It is 1 over 2. I apologize. I was just about to do that. You can divide the top and the bottom, and I would have gotten there. The top and the bottom by 7. So 7 divided by 7 is 1, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. So I was thinking divide by 7. So yes, it's 1 over 2. Okay? So that's a regular one. Now, when I go to number 2, I can already notice this is either going to be undefined or 0. Because do you see that these have the same number in the x spot? I immediately know that if it's an x value, that the line's going to run up and down. I know that automatically I would say this is undefined slope. But mathematically, you need to figure it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to label your y values, because you see y comes first, and the y's are the second value in each point. So we take the first one as it sits, and we do the opposite of this one. This is negative 17, so the opposite is plus 17. Use our equals, bring our m down, that's what we're solving for. M stands for slope. Now we cross off the ones we used, and what we have left is our x's. They're the first value in each point. So we use the 7, and we do the opposite of the next 7. Since that's plus 7, we're going to minus 7. And then we solve it. We're going to go ahead and distribute. M times 7, or 1 times 7 is 7. They have an m together. 1 times negative 7 is negative 7, and they have an m together. Bring down everything else. We do one step at a time. So we did distribute once. Now we go to combine like terms. The 2 and the 17 are alike because they do not have a variable. So 2 and 17 is 19. What is these two now can go together because they're like terms because they both have an m. So 7 minus 7 is 0. You don't need to put an m on it because it's 0. Well, we're done because there's no variable anymore, right? The variables cancel off. Does 19 equal 0? No. Therefore, the answer is undefined. That's the answer, and that's what must be written. Why is it undefined? Because the line goes straight up and down, which is like the wall. You cannot walk on a wall. It's undefined. Unlike this one that we did on the first one, this line will go up 2 spaces and run 1 space. So what we have is a line that does this. It's an angled line. Rise over run. 1 over 2. Oops, sorry, 1 over 2. So that line actually goes 1 over 2. It goes this way. So it's more of a steep angle. This is 2 over 1. This one's 1 over 2. Okay? That's what we're doing. Look at those lines. What we're doing, we're solving them mathematically just to find the slope. All right, here's number 3. Do any of the x's match? Will the y's match? No, they don't. So therefore, we're going to have an actual slope. It's not a 0 or an undefined. All right, again, label your y because that's the first one we're going to use. And your y's are the second ones. So use the first one as it sits, negative 19, and use the opposite of the other y, which is going to be plus 10 since it's minus 10. Cross those off because we used them. The equals, the m, parentheses. Now we go to our x's. These are our x's. We use the first one as it sits, which is negative 6. And the second one, we use the opposite. See that minus there? That tells us to use the opposite. So that's going to be plus 8. Since it's minus 8, we use the opposite. Because a negative and a negative is a positive. That's why we do that. Okay? Oh, we go to our steps now. We're going to distribute. That's a 1. 1 times negative 6, negative 6m, because it has an m together. 1 times 8 is 8, and it has an m. Bring down the top. And now we combine like terms. 19, negative 19 and 10 do not have a variable, therefore we add them together. So negative 19 plus 10 is negative 9. Negative 6, m, and 8m have m, so we can add those together. So negative 6 plus 8 is 2m. There's not an extra variable over here, and there's no plus or minus between the 2 and the m, so we can skip those 2 steps. However, this is 2 times m, so we're going to divide by 2. Our 2's cancel off. That's because 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times m is just m. And that's it. 2 is a prime number. It's not gonna be there. So our answer is actually negative 9 over 2. Do not take -9 divided by 2 and give me a decimal. You need rise over run. You are going to leave it as a fraction. I know your calculator, actually, I think your calculator will leave it as this, doesn't it? It doesn't change it to a decimal. Some of your calculators at home will change it to a decimal, but my calculators will not. They'll leave you as a fraction, and that's what you need. And when we get into algebra 2, that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay? All right, let's take a look. Our 2 and -17 are different. However, look at, we have the same number, right? In the y position. That means we're either going to be 0 or undefined. I know it's in the y. The y-axis runs up and down. That means the line's going to go left and right. So I know it's going to be a 0 slope, but mathematically, you need to figure it out. So let's label our y's. First one as it is, -20. Second one is -20, but we need the opposite. See that negative? We need the opposite of the second one, so it's +20. M is our slope, so we keep that because that's what we're looking for. Cross off the ones we used, and our x's are the last ones here. You don't necessarily need to label it, but I'm just doing it so you know. We take the first one as it is because there's no negative in front of this x. There is a negative in front of this x, it means we're the opposite, so since it's -17, we're going to add 17. And I want you to pay attention to this one because people missed this one last time. So we are going to go ahead and do our steps. 1 times 2 is 2m. 1 times 17 is 17, and they have an m together. Now, we need to combine like terms. So the -20 and the 20 are both alike because they do not have a variable. So -20 plus 20 is 0. Okay? It's not over. Don't put undefined. It's not. Because over here, when we combine like terms, we have 2 plus 17, which is 19m. We did not solve for m yet. So we must still, because there's no extra variable, we skip that step, there's no plus or minus, we still have 19 times m, so we must divide by 19. 19 divided by 19 is 1, 1 times m is m, all right? But what is 0 divided by 19? What's 0 divided by 19? 0. It is 0. So our slope is 0. Guys, that's like the floor. We can walk on a 0 slope. What we cannot do, take a look at this, guys. We cannot walk on a wall. That's why the slope is undefined. It's the wall, straight up and down. This one at 0, a 0 slope, the line goes exactly flat. We can walk on a 0 slope. It goes left and right. Why? Because all the y values, no matter what, let's see, we have 2, -20, so 2, let's say 2, -20 is here. And then we have -17, 20 is here. If we put another dot somewhere in the middle of that, that would be like -5, -20. That'd be that dot there. Notice that every one on a flat line is going to have a y value that ends in -20, no matter what we put there. You guys at home, watch the other videos. We have the same video from yesterday. I had 6 examples. I'm only going to do 4 today. Moses, I can help you out if you need some more examples. But for you guys at home, I'm not going to bore you with another huge, long video. So go ahead and rewatch these or watch the one from yesterday about the zeros and the undefined. So you should get it. If you have an issue, once again, in my resource class, I have the option for you at 150 every day. I'm on Google Meet, or you can email me and we can set up a personal Google Meet time so that we can go over these to help you out. All right, have a good weekend. Be safe.